Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The First Omen, starring Nell Tiger Free, Ralph Ineson, Sonia Braga, Tawfiq Barham, Caballero, Charles Dance, and Bill Nighy, directed by Arkasha Stevenson. Now, before I get into this movie, welcome back to The Omen after, 3 or 4 years whenever I did this series? I think it was 3 or 4 years ago around there, but I forget what year. But but I had to revisit all of them, including that god awful remake as well as that god awful fourth part. I don't remember how I felt about the other. No, the second one I remember being a 4 around there, and that third one was bad too. So the only one to watch so far is this original, but before why I should say watch the original instead, let's get into the movie. I have seen it twice. The first time was in a theater with people reacting, let's say at best. And the second viewing, I only went on a Monday, last Monday, I'll say, with two people in the theater. Well, two others plus myself in the theater. So let's just get straight into this movie. It's 1971 in Rome, Italy, and a priest named Father Harris, played by Charles Dance, is visited by another priest, Father Brennan, played by Ralph Ineson, where one of them has a photo of Carlita Sciana. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Please forgive me. And it took me two viewings to know what this meant. And Father Harris walks out of confession and gets cut in the back of the head. But I couldn't tell if he died or not, which confused the shit out of me as an opener. It took me my second viewing to understand what was going on in this point. We meet Margaret, played by Nell Tiger Free, as she's approached by Father Gabriel, played by Tawfiq Barham, to bring her to her mentor, Cardinal Lawrence, played by Bill Nighy. And they drive by some protesters, which made me think, are the protesters hippies? Because it could have happened at this point, because that's when it happened, hippies being around making love and not war or whatever. And when they arrive, Margaret is introduced to Sister Silva, played by Sonia Braga, to give Margaret a tour around what they do in the church, which is making kids become Catholic. And that's when she's introduced to a disturbed young woman whom I briefly brought up a second ago, Carlita, as she's introduced as Sister Angelica, who was attached to Carlita. And Margaret becomes attached to Carlita, and I absolutely do not like any of these characters, as I don't know most of them, as I've reviewed Ralph Ineson many times, from Harry Potter to Guardians of the Galaxy to a couple of films from Robert Eggers, like The Witch and The Northman as well. Here's and he's here, but other than that, Charles Dance and Bill Nighy, I don't know most of these actors, as I don't remember Ralph Ineson from any of the movies I reviewed him in, like The Creator. And the ones I brought up, but yeah, these characters are pretentious. Margaret meets Luz, played by Maria Caballero, as their roommates, and they learn about each other. For example, Margaret says she was a troubled little girl, and I don't buy this from this actress, as she's so bad in this movie, as is every other actor in this movie. And I feel like when we get quiet scenes, I hear sound effects that are very distracting on the background on both viewings of this movie, as it was bugging the fuck out of me for half the movie. And this movie isn't scary, but it's more boring, as I wasn't scared during the movie, but I was laughing inappropriately both times in the theater, as I do in most horror movies. And I swear to God, I got vibes from a movie I saw recently that I did not like called Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. I was getting a hell of a lot of vibes from that god-awful film than The Omen, as this movie is a disgrace to the original movie. Margaret and Luz go to a bar together while dressing sexually active, which is not a life of the nun, unless you want to get yourself into trouble, as she meets an Italian named Paolo, I don't know if I'm saying that right, please forgive me, who will get her pregnant, I'm guessing, but he won't realize it until he dies later in the film, and he and Margaret have no chemistry whatsoever, and she's a goddamn nun, for Christ's sakes. And he brings her to the dance floor, and I'm so far not scared of this movie like I was with the original Omen film from 1976, But more, I was kind of bored, as this is a boring movie with nothing happening for the first hour and a half. And I'll get to that last 30 minutes when I get there. I mean, Jesus Christ. Margaret wakes up with a spider on her face, and she learns she was kind of misbehaving while she was drunk, and she prays for forgiveness for all the bad she did the night before. While Margaret is having lunch, Father Brennan approaches her and brings up terrible things that will happen to Carlita as she's in danger, and she gets frightened, and he asks her to meet with him that night. And as she's back to church, the church, I mean, Carlita is in the bad room, and Margaret wants to help her out and has a talk with her, and their relationship was bland, in my opinion, I'll say. Margaret hears screaming while talking with Carlita and sees what's happening as one of the sisters gives birth to a baby out of her stomach, and like they did in Immaculate. And I swear to God, this baby looks like some kind of demon or something from Annabelle, for all I know. And I did not want to see the baby demon coming out of her womb. And that was such a disturbing scene. The acting in this scene was so fucking painful. When I look at Margaret, this actress, Nell Tiger Free, I swear to God, she looked a hell of a lot like Alexandra Daddario while she approaches Carlita and Sister Angelica, as Sister Angelica draws something very inappropriate. And she throws it out and kisses Margaret on the lips for random reasons, while Carlita is playing with Margaret. And the other kid, Sister Angelica, commits suicide while burning her own damn body, which kind of gave me a vibe from the original Omen film, but this was done so much worse than that film ever did. Margaret meets with Father Brennan and explains why Carlita is in danger, as she's the Antichrist, as she was born on the 6th month of the 6th day in the 6th hour, which marks the number of the devil at this point. And I'm led to believe she has a marking somewhere in her body that says 666, as I'm almost 50 minutes into this 2-hour film and nothing is happening at this point, as I'm bored out of my mind, and this plot makes no sense, as it didn't work in Immaculate and it doesn't work here either. And that was a shorter movie than this. Margaret goes to a museum with our other fathers, sisters, and children, and Margaret asks Carlita about her past, and it upsets her too much. She wants quiet privacy as they get out of the museum, and the protesters are burning the police cars, and they grab Margaret, and she's frightened that one of the sisters sees her acting funny, like she has the devil in her. And we move on to nighttime, and Sister Silva wants to have a chat with Margaret about keeping her distance from Carlita, while Margaret talks back about Sister Silva makes Carlita sick in the head, I mean. And at this point, this movie is so fucking boring. Like, goddamn. Margaret runs into Paolo, and he learns she's pregnant with a baby, and he gets killed by getting chopped in half by a truck and gets stuck on the wall. And this wasn't making me scared nor care at this point, as I never got to know Paolo at this point, as he had the bar scene as well as this scene, and that is it. And the score in this movie was awful. At both times, it was giving me such a bad headache. Luz gets promoted as one of the main prestes, that's what it is. While Margaret looks for some flies in Sister Silva's files, in Sister Silva's desk about Carlita, and finds them, and she sees what kind of trouble Carlita is in, and she gets Carlita away from the other sisters. And Margaret hides in the files, under the bed, as she sees the 666 mark inside her mouth, like up there, for example. As Father Gabriel believes what the sisters are doing is wrong, while she goes in the bad room, and that's when I hear the most annoying sound effects in this movie. As Margaret tells herself it's not real, and Father Gabriel gets Margaret out of there and takes her to Father Brennan and gives her the files, and the shots look so much better in the trailer than it did in this movie, as they look so bad. And I'm still thinking, what the fuck is the point of the movie? And I'm still not getting scared, but I'm getting, like I keep saying again and again, completely bored at this point, because once again, nothing's happening. Get to the point of the movie, as it is preposterous, and let something fucking happen. That's scary. I don't give a fuck what it is. Just give me something fucking scary. While meeting with Father Brennan, Margaret discovers she's pregnant it took her so long to discover that without any vomiting whatsoever. Oh, brother. That bothered me so bad. They find a 666 marking on a head of a baby Margaret in a photo, and Paola figured it out a long time ago. And Margaret starts to figure it out as it was marking as this is a dense plot, and Cardinal Lawrence is hiding the truth that her mother was killed by him, while Paolo is the father. And again, this movie does a very bad job at telling its plot. And again, what the fuck was with the close-up shots of the eyeball, as that was bothering me as they go on the way to a church to get it out of her body. As they're on the way there, the sisters crash the car and injure Father Brennan and kill Father Gabriel. And Margaret gets out of and acts like the fucking devil. And I thought, what the fuck is this bullshit about? And she gets tied up on a table to deliver the baby. And this is when this movie has stuff happening, as I was mostly bored with it. And it's not going to be spectacular. I'm not going to lie. Let's talk about it on the next segment. Cardinal Lawrence gets the babies out. Yes, I said babies with an S because of Margaret with love, while I'm calling bullshit at this point. And here's why I said babies. She has twins. One is a boy who happens to be Damien from the original Omen film, and another one is a girl. And the stuff that is happening for the last 30 minutes is the most fucked up I've ever seen, other than Immaculate. And they cut her stomach open like they did in Immaculate, and these scenes are so disturbing I had to look away, while the other sisters watch the operation. And when they say one of them is a boy, the theme of the first film pops up, and in a score. That's the only thing I kind of think is credible at best, but it's not incredible, but more credible. And Margaret asks to hold the boy and kills Lawrence Cardinal as she almost kills the baby boy. But one of the sisters grabs the boy and stabs Margaret in the stomach, and they try to burn Margaret and the baby girl until Carlita helps by getting Margaret and the baby girl out of there. And they hide in a mountain full of snow, and the sisters give the baby boy to Ambassador Robert Thorne. Sound familiar from the original movie? And Father Brennan is alive. And how the hell did he get out of there, I wonder? It doesn't matter. As he tells Margaret about the boy named Damien, and this is when the original Omen starts, right after their original baby has died. And this climax was awful and terrible. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 2.3 out of 10. I don't like any of the characters, as the actors did a horrible job with their performances, as none of them have no chemistry with each other whatsoever, and no charisma either. But this is a few notches better than Immaculate, which came out a few weeks ago. And the movie wasn't scary like the original Omen from 1976 was, but more, it was boring for the first hour and a half until we get to the last 30 minutes of it. And and it was terrible, but if you want to see this movie, I would recommend watching the last 30 minutes of the movie before suffering the first hour and a half because nothing was happening at that point. I was absolutely shocked that this got a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, as this is worse than that, in my opinion, as this plot makes no sense, as it also made no sense in Immaculate, and it doesn't work here, as this is a few notches better than that. While this is a solid non-recommendation, and I don't know why I'm going to one bad movie after another, and I'm really hoping my next theatrical experience, Alex Garland's Civil War, isn't as bad as this movie is, because I am going to come back to that series, because I did review it before Men came out, I think 2 years ago. But anyways, I would like to thank you guys for returning to The Omen with me, and until, I don't know, whenever we get another one, your son is the son of the devil.